Yeah, thank you for the show in the first place. Griffin actually was the one I think that recommended this happening, so appreciate it, buddy. I think that this, I guess I should probably start with what we want this show to end up being, which is, to me, I want to really kind of hit on bridging the gap between the oil and gas industry in particular and Bitcoin mining, and help educating the industry to what we're doing and what we can do for the industry. Yep. And they fit together so nicely. And I think we'll end up talking about that today. But I think that the oil and gas industry needs to realize that there are professionals in this space, and there's a lot more going on than what they may be aware of, and that it's going to continue to grow. And going ahead and making it part of their portfolio or their plans now is going to put them ahead in the future. And it really won't change much with what they do currently. So that's what I hope that we can do, not only just from this episode, but from the show in general, is really kind of help educate them on all that stuff.
We do like a brief background on you and your experience, and then we'll dive into both Griffin and Gideon.
All right. Yeah. Well, I'm from Missouri originally, so I did not know shit about oil and gas. And my dad's he was a high school basketball coach, became a college coach, and my family was all dairy farmers, and my mom's side was like commercial fishermen. And yeah, it was just kind of not the background that you would have thought, considering what I've been doing for a career now. So when I moved down from Missouri, I ended up, coaching high school ball for a little while, and then went to law school. And while I was in law school, I met a guy that was a landman, and I had no freaking idea what that was at all. But he seemed cool and laid back guy, Jared Jones. He's
Shout out to Jared.
J-Rod. And so I went up to him and just talked to him afterwards for a little bit, and was like, "Hey man, what is a landman?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, we're working on oil and gas." And I go and talk to people, and I was like, "Oh, okay, that sounds like something I could do." I'd never had even really known a lawyer before I went to law school. And so like realizing like, okay, I don't know what I'm going to do after I get out of school. I better figure it out early on. And so I was like, well, I'm going to go try to chase that down, and ended up getting a job at Anadarko right out of school, and did that for a while. It was great. Loved that place. Learned a lot early on, and then went on to Indigo Minerals, and then got in the private equity side, raised some money, started a couple different companies. Then while I was at my last one, Century Oil and Gas, we ended up putting a Bitcoin mine out on one of our sites. And just after time, and the only reason we did it was to keep our oil production on. And but over time, I started just kind of looking at it and was like, man, I wonder how much money you're making on this. Turned out it was like $7 an M, and at the time we were doing about $1 an M. So I was like, oh, this has some legs on it. I'm going to try to raise some money and go do this. And talked to Ryan Leachman. He was at Century as well, and oil had went negative too. It was like April 2020, and we're like, dude, we got to figure something out.
It's a great time.
Yeah, fun time. And Ryan's biggest thing was like, I freaking love Wyoming. I do not want to move away from here. Like, yeah, if we can get some money together, I don't care, because we don't know what was going to happen. And so we ended up getting some money together, started J Energy, and yeah, grew the company, did real well. And then we just kind of, it came to time to move on and do different things. And Ryan went back to oil and gas, which, this is his first love. And it really is solidified that he's going to be able to stay in Wyoming. So I think that's the biggest thing for him. But, he's still part of the Bitcoin world too. So, but he and I, he ended up going there, and then I wanted to get kind of back in the legal industry, because I was getting so many people reaching out about, getting help on putting deals together, or just trying to figure out how to get in the space. And I was like, well, man, look, I love helping people, and probably to a fault, because I ended up spending probably too much time away from my own family helping other people and stuff like that. But it turned into an opportunity. And so I ended up leaving, and then Brandon Martin over at Martin Legal Group, where I'm at now, he reached out and wanted me to come over there. And so it was a perfect fit, because I get to work on deals and deal flow, which is really what I enjoy, and do it in Bitcoin, and do oil and gas still. So it's like a marriage of all the things
that's
I
the
love.
best. That's the best of both worlds.
Right. And so, and then when you guys asked about doing the show, I was like, hell yeah, this will be perfect, man. So I can talk about shit I like to talk about and talk to my boys.
And you like to talk. So.
Yeah, I like to talk. I feel like, I better shut up and get y'all talking. So, because,
What's here?
Yeah, I know. My bad.
What's your background, Gideon?
I grew up seeing my dad loved the upstream oil and gas business. And really, my granddad was one of those American dream stories who, in 6th grade, his dad passed away and he had to go to work. And then, became an entrepreneur. And, and so my dad got to watch my granddad, go from eating hot dogs to steaks. But one thing that happened, my granddad didn't know anything about money. He didn't get to go to college. So he went bankrupt several times. And so, but my dad got to learn operations, grew up in the field, and my dad ended up getting to go to college. And so I just watched my dad love the industry, and I grew up, I was going to NAPE when I was 12, and just loved it. And, so really after college, it was go do investment banking in Houston or go to Midland and figure something out. And so I want to get boots on the ground in Midland. My dad encouraged me to do that. And, so moved out to Midland, worked for, Anthem Oil and Gas, a mineral acquisition company, and got to learn the whole cold calling. I love cold calling. And then really the Permian was heating up. So I called my dad and I said, hey, I think this whole Permian thing's real. I'll come back and let's get in on the Permian. So from 2012, starting in 2012, we, like everyone, just bought minerals, sold minerals, bought leases. We're still drilling. My dad, he'd drill about 30 to 50 wells a year. And then around 2016, we'd sold a pretty big deal. And I had a lot of friends in Silicon Valley that were telling me, hey, Gideon, we like you. We really like your wife. And we are investing in businesses that are going to put your oil and gas company out of business. And I was like, man, I really appreciate that. None of my oil friends are telling me those things. And at the same time, I had a lot of, there's a large community that want, a lot of people, okay, well, renewables are bad. And so I took some time off in late 16 and 17 to really kind of do my own independent analysis, and brought on an intern, Jesse Pelton, to help me frame up some for-profit investments that were carbon neutral. And through that, we just saw how cheap power was in Texas. And so we flipped from, okay, how do you invest in power, renewable generation, to what needs cheap power? And, I'd always liked crypto. I believe in, a free market, bottom up solutions. And so, we just, we plugged in some GPUs, and all of a sudden it was like, man, there's a bunch of internet nerds plugging in these things, but this is an operations game. Yeah. And so we just started buying GPUs around 17 and just maxing out credit cards and just leasing warehouses. And then towards the end of the summer, Jesse said, hey, I'll drop out of college if you'll, invest in a company, and let's start a crypto mining company. And at the time I was trying to work on a new philosophy. So I clearly had a lot of cool stuff going on. So I was like, all right, let's do this. So we started Autonomous Crypto, and leasing warehouses, data centers. But what we kept seeing was data center people didn't speak our Bitcoin language. And so we had thousands of GPUs, high cost. And so it didn't emerge overnight, but it was like, man, we need to build a product, a campus for Bitcoin miners. So that was where this idea, we're like, all right, where's the cheapest power? Okay, West Texas, tons of wind, tons of solar, tons of natural gas, and it's stranded. So we went out, and then John Bick over at Priority was doing all our upstream oil and gas electrical work. And I kept trying to get him to buy, like, hey, where can I get power? And he'd send me sites in town, and there was all these little taxes or regulations or something that was impediment. And finally he was like, well, why don't you just build your own substation? I was like, I can do that? I was like, all right. So we, and I'll never forget, because he was kind of annoyed. He was like, look, what are you looking for? What are you doing? I was like, all right, John, we're mining Bitcoin. He goes, what the hell is that? And I heard him clicking on his keyboard, and he goes, holy shit, this thing's 3 gigawatts. And I was like, I know, and it's going to grow. And so he's like, all right, well, you build your own substation. So we ended up buying land out in West Texas, had to work with university lands. We bought the land. I signed the interconnection, gave a significantly large personal guarantee on the facilities extension agreement. And then called University Lands. I was like, hey, I'm Gideon, bought some land, need a right of way. They were like, no. I was like, I hear you, but I'll see you in the morning. So I drove through the night, slept in my car, was at their office the next day and just said, hey, look, Bitcoin miners, we're the modern day wildcatters. And so y'all know what the Santa Rita #1 is. That was the first well in the Permian, unleashed billions of barrels, helped, win World War II. Like that's what we're trying to do. And this y'all took the name Digital Wildcatter, so I couldn't get that one. But these are the Digital Wildcatters. And we're going to put this out here, and then it's going to attract more Bitcoin miners. And then we're going to do demand response. It's going to balance the grid. We're going to incentivize more low-cost power. And then the data centers are going to come. Then industrial manufacturing is going to come. Like this isn't just we're building a Bitcoin mine. This is we're going to help unleash human prosperity through more energy. And this is going to be an energy revolution. And what side of history do you want to be on? And they were like, okay, that is,
that got me fired up.
Yeah. So anyway, so we built Huddle Ranch 1. It was a 100 megawatt spec substation that was meant for one thing and one thing only. And that was to mine Bitcoin. And then we ended up traveling the world, telling everyone about ERCOT demand response, flew like 19 different groups from around the world out to West Texas. And they were like, what, the Chinese, some Russians, the South Koreans, Brazilians, family offices, Canadians. And they were all like, this is exactly what I want, but none of them had cash. And a group showed up and they said, we want it. And so we sold it to them. And then we'd already planned, all right, well, 100 megawatts is cute. Let's go bigger. But then, I've kind of bounced similar ebb and flow between upstream oil and gas. I think the principles of upstream and the capabilities are critical. But yeah, I see these worlds of capabilities converging. So anyway, that's a little bit long-winded story.
No, it's good, man. It's good. It was. We'll go back to it, but there's a story in Texas Monthly about his family that I read the other day, and it's incredible, man. And when you read that about his dad and his grandpa, it makes you understand kind of where he's coming from. Like the Bitcoin wildcat attitude is definitely ingrained in his family. So
I love that.
I'd encourage everybody to go read that article. You can put it on the website.
Yeah, we can put a link in the show notes for that. We can find it over.
It was great. It was well written. I don't know who wrote it, but it was entertaining to read too.
Griffin, you're what, 4th generation, right?
Like 5th, aren't you?
5th generation?
A Texan?
Yeah.
7th.
Oh,
7th generation.
I didn't know that's possible.
Texan. Yeah, we came over from like Port Lavaca to Castroville back in the 1840s, and there was 2 Haby brothers. One got sick and went to San Antonio and ended up staying there, and then the unintelligent side decided to ranch on rocks. So that's where we come from.
So give everybody a quick rundown on your background.
All right. So I grew up in Hood County, right on top of the Barnett Shale. My dad was a nuclear engineer, so energy density always made sense to me. Studied energy commerce at Tech, and then went to Anadarko as well.
Did y'all meet in Anadarko or
no? We didn't.
Okay.
Yeah, he was before me.
But I was Jared was there when I was there.
J-Rod, yeah.
And so
he's the connection.
Okay.
Yeah.
They made the mistake of putting me out in the field, and I absolutely loved the field, the courthouses, the small town greasy spoons for lunch. You're slinging books. You're talking to landowners. Chewing the fat over coffee and cattle is just a passion of mine, I guess. And so I ended up not being very good at big oil, and went back to school, did ranch management at TCU, and then went straight to the field. This was 2008. There's a little play called Marcellus. I thought, hey, that's like a ton of gas sitting in the market's backyard. I can go, plant my stake here and print money, right? Well, turns out pipelines, had a lot to do with that, but I guess kind of that first bust, 2009. I was like one of the last men standing when I should have just found a job immediately, but it worked out. I got a job, like a cowboy job in the outback of Australia, and then I was like a working holiday visa or whatever. So then I get a call from one of the guys that we hung out in Pittsburgh, because it was just all Texas expats just living in Pittsburgh, and wasn't
Marcellus,
Texas, right?
Yeah.
And so anyway, we all kept in touch, and then he calls me and he's like, get to Ohio right now. I'm in like Cairns, Australia. And I was like, is there an override involved? Okay, let's go. So I take a flight back, and we start leasing up what was called the Utica that it was, kind of cheaper back then. So we put together leases and flipped those and put together leases and kind of just started chasing shale plays all around.
What year was this?
This would have been from 2010 to probably
That's like before Chesapeake even came in then, huh?
2013. Oh yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, you guys were early.
You can find us
Damn.
paying some pretty good rates in those courthouses. So, kind of from there, and yeah, it's since it's obviously blown up and you can't get very good rates out there, but from there, we went to, I want to say it was like Klein Shale, right? Took an L there, but it was 2 weeks before I was moving to Argentina to go run pipeline rideaways for Repsol back in the Vaca Muerta shale days. But I met a girl and didn't stay in Argentina long, and now we got 4 kids, and they're walking in right now.
make a little guest appearance.
Yeah, we brought our
family
kids.
show. Family show.
And anyway, came back and she wanted me to stay in Houston, obviously stay out of the courthouses and be around. So I got a job with a Bakken operator, Oasis, and, kind of started going kind of back to the corporate side. And then that would have been 2015 when we know what happened then. So at $70 oil, they kicked all the, contractors to the curb. And it was that, kind of that time in my life, like, what do I do here? I was engaged. I was about to be married, and I had no job. Really looking
Great
bleak.
spot.
Yeah. And luckily, my wife's dad is an entrepreneur, and so she was 100% supportive of go do your own thing. So me and Peyton McKinney started Mountain Lion Oil and Gas, which we started, buying minerals in like East Texas, Cotton Valley, which I still love and will do today.
Yeah.
But
It's my stomping grounds there.
I've got no market, and there was not enough, cash flow initially for me to fund any sort of G&A in a company. So we had to flip. We had to sell them. And so everybody was in the Permian, right? Nobody cared about my East Texas assets.
Yeah.
There was like Scoop Stack was okay, but everyone was just, I want Permian. So we went, started buying Midland Basin, got lucky on some trades there, and then decided to put every penny we had, into a top lease 8 months early, and just kind of pickle the beast, right? And there was a lot of sleepless nights, very puckered up. Got a good butt workout from that deal. But next thing you know, we had a guy with a lawn chair out there at midnight, seeing if that rig came in, and it didn't. So we got very lucky. Made a bet there, and it's just good old fashioned American dream like that. You can only do that in the oil field, right?
I got a top lease story. Those are the best.
Yeah.
It's like roll the dice, man.
Total dice roll. So we then take that money and finally can start hiring people, and moved up to New Mexico and started buying these federal overrides, which it's been a great game because there's just no data up there, and it's probably 1 to 200, of how many mineral buyers are on the state line south if you're trying to buy in Texas compared to New Mexico. And so once we had kind of a foothold there, we hired some more people, and because if you don't have data, you're starting with the private equity guys with $500 million, and you with a couple nickels, start the same starting line, and that's all you can ask for. In my shoes is if you're telling me the gold is here and all I have to do is grind to get there. That's my kind of opportunity set. So we kind of got lucky on some divestments in like December 19. So then we built this algorithm that kind of opportunistically bought Texas royalties.
And when you say we built an algorithm, that was
we have a smart Python coder out of Austin. All I did was sit there and
This would be a really good idea if somebody could build this algorithm.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. We kind of sat down because at first it was just a lot of yes nos, and we have to really tighten it up. But he has no idea the language I'm speaking.
Yeah.
I have no clue what language he's speaking. And so finally, you kind of get, after 2 years, it finally started popping off in 2020. And so we, kind of had powder, and we're just buying anything.
Perfect time too. Man.
Yeah. These aren't like, huge deals at a time, but the the motto is a sea full of nickels, that you know, wake up one day, you got a 100-page probate of all these little things, but mailbox money is just kind of coming in. And then I'm in Lubbock for a football game in 2020, November. And I run to my buddy, Connor Murphy, and what are you up to? What are you up to? And then, you know, we kind of go half kimono. I got an algorithm. He's like, I'm mining Bitcoin off natural gas. I was like, 4 margaritas. Yeah, let's just go ahead and get this on. What the heck did you just tell me? And once he kind of ran through the numbers, he had a stranded gas well that it had high nitrogen content. He's 19 miles away from a pipeline. They're banging out prospects of like chasing, you know, reefs in Central Texas, and thought it was going to be liquids and could truck them out. But all of a sudden they were stuck with this straight dry gas, no markets, and had to get creative with solutions. And so Connor calls Steve Barber out of Canada. He comes down, sets them up a Bitcoin mine. And next thing you know, he's making more money off this stranded high nitrogen content well than if he had, you know, Henry Hub type markets. So once you see those numbers, you cannot unsee it.
Right.
And so I was like, immediately, what do you need? He was running a bunch of S9s, which is, you know, kind of like a Pinto terahash, you know, machine compared to like the Ferraris that were available. And he's like, I need Ferraris. So we did like a little friends and family raise, and got some M30S pluses, and we just thought, hey, we're gonna walk in there and just plug them in, right? Pat ourselves on the back, we're Bitcoin miners, and that was not the case, right? It was a lot of drama, a lot of bumps, bruises, and scars to finally get that thing up and running. But luckily, once we started running, is when the Chexit Chinese kicked all the miners out, and you know, difficulty plummeted, and so all of a sudden we go from like literally like half a Bitcoin to 4 Bitcoin a month. Was just, you know, this is a good idea. Let's keep this up. Then we had all these, you know, guys looking for space, and like Gideon said, you look around for power in the world, and all roads leads to Texas, and especially West Texas at that time. Just underutilized wind and solar that were begging for a market. So we found like a 36 megawatt spot that then got a 300 megawatt permit. We had the Waha pipeline running through it. So knew that, you know, we can maybe even put nat gas generation out there. There's plenty of land, as everybody knows, you know, for solar. And so, you know, at the end of the day, that could be like a 600 megawatt site, but it's a lot of building to get there. Don't get me wrong. And then from there, we were able to exit that. And, you know, the team kind of looked around, and some people wanted to do this, some people wanted to do that. So it's kind of like a perfect time to, you know, start running, because if you're in the oil and gas business, you know what a boom and bust cycle looks like, right? And so like a lot of the Bitcoin people are just freaking out when it busts. But
the new Bitcoin
people, yeah.
But every oil and gas guy is just licking their chops. Like, okay, we just saw Double Eagle drill at $20 oil, and those flowing barrels are now just making the licks, right? And everybody's trying to, you know, ape in at $100 oil, has the highest service cost and drilling cost possible. So we're sitting there looking like this is some cheap ASICs. So we started up Mountain Line Mining, and we're doing basically like it's a on-grid, off-grid kind of combo, and just trying to get our hands on as many chips and ASICs as we possibly can right now. Because in my opinion, this next bull run, when it happens, the network size has grown so much. It's gotten, you know, bigger and older and wiser, and you're not that as weird being a Bitcoin miner to where you got more credibility. And then that next one, I think, is going to be so hard to get your hands on ASICs that any semiconductors that you're sitting on here in the next 2 years are just going to gain in value.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that this is the last downturn where it's like you're not, because I can tell you, all the people who are calling me now to get into the space that are looking are smart money guys with backgrounds in like power markets, and like they I think they're seeing the opportunity that like this industry is real now. Even in 2020 when we first got going, it was not real. Like nobody
digital beanie babies.
Only people, you were one of the only people that I know of that were doing like large scale Bitcoin mines for Bitcoin mining.
Because he was
in the States. Yeah. Like you honestly, you're like the pioneer, man. You're the you and Steve Barber are two of the pioneers for like getting ahead of something and like establishing that this is a legit, real business opportunity. And yeah, and both of you guys are oil and gas guys. So it's like, you know, it fits. And that's the part that I spend a ton of my time working on with companies, oil and gas companies, on just literally trying to educate them to mining and showing them kind of how to model it, and basically just getting them to realize that this is your same business that you've been doing for the last forever. You know, this is exactly the same thing.
It's just a digital widget.
It's just it's the same
and
thing,
just so much fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, man. And honestly, like all the people I've met, this is the thing that's been the best for me, is like meeting you guys even. Like I wouldn't have met most of the people that are big in my life right now if it wasn't for like Bitcoin mining. And the crazy thing is they're all from the same background that I was from already. So it's weird, but I really think that the experiences like you guys are just talking about are what makes us perfect for this industry. And actually, fellow layman, I think laymen in particular are primed for like moving into this space. You're the most landman, non-landman person I know. So,
he's a landman.
Yeah,
I did a stint in Stonewall County.
All right, well,
over in
Jayden,
running title one summer.
Land is the basis of all energy.
Yeah, completely.
And that's where even right now we talk about, it's like, look, I mean, we've bought a lot of land in West Texas, and, you know, it's kind of like buying minerals in Midland County in 2001. Little early.
it's
a lot of early, but, you know, at the end of the day, it's like, it all starts with land, then you need interconnection, then you need high voltage transformers, and all that takes years and time. So you got to have the land.
Well, where do you guys, and I know we don't have a ton of time, but where do you guys think the best opportunities for oil and gas companies are? Like, I've heard people talk about, you know, oil and gas companies getting taken over by Bitcoin miners. That's never going to happen, in my opinion. I think the technical level of the disciplines required, the operational issues, oil and gas is tremendously more difficult and complex than Bitcoin mining. It doesn't mean it's not complex.
I'm telling you, the technical acumen of guys that are drilling, you know, deep water, Gulf of Mexico.
Oh my gosh.
5,000 foot before you hit the seabed type wells.
Right.
This is child's play. You got, you know, you got some of the baddest minds in the country, especially when you get high energy prices. You're gravitating more talent, you know, to the industry. And it is a heck of a lot easier to learn Bitcoin than the oil and gas business. Yeah. But I kind of look at it as it's their new tool. It's their new arrow in their quiver, that they now have this option to where they'll never see like a gas bust ever again. If they don't like the market for their natural gas, then they now have an option to mine it and store it, right? Like you never had real gas storage solutions. And I think that's a lot of what oil and gas guys understand about the Bitcoin, is where you can basically take that gas, instead of being forced to put it in a pipeline, you can put it in your pocket and wait till, you know, favorable market conditions.
Right. Yeah, I agree completely. I think that even just allocating a portion of the reserves to it it's like an easy hedge without actually having to hedge. And I think that it's inevitable before they all start kind of falling in, realizing that this is an avenue that we could all take. And you run your own oil and gas company, Choya Petroleum. So is Choya doing any of the off-grid, or are you kind of focusing still on-grid or behind-the-meter type?
Yeah, we're Choya's strategy, and we you know, oil still absolutely pays for the bills, but we really think of Choya as a venture capital company that operates. So we are industry agnostic. We like really abstract concepts. So we try to buy PDP. That's very challenging. Yeah. But we love wildcatting. We love Bitcoin mining. And so what are these concepts that are difficult to where it's a corporate, our CFO is always stressed because it's very hard to model these things. Like, give me a type curve. It's like, well, we haven't even drilled the well yet. Like, I'll give you one, but you know, and it's the same thing with the Bitcoin mining difficulty. It's like, all right, let's look at returns. It's like, you have Bitcoin doubling, you know, at the halvening. It's like, I mean, Bitcoin's going to moon. It has NGU technology. I don't know how you model that, but so right now we're running active upstream. We're going to keep drilling, and I love having, you know, we're not looking to be the biggest tomorrow. We're really focused on, one, survive, and two, be dynamic. And so we don't take on debt, And we really don't try to rush things. I mean, a lot of Bitcoiners want to rush. You know, when the China ban happened, it was a call a day. I need a gigawatt today.
Yeah.
It's like, cool, get in line. So really we're continuing our upstream oil and gas operations. And then we're in the very early innings of building out what we're calling Choya Energy. And it's exclusively grid, ERCOT, Texas based. And not only how do we grow our company's MPV, but really grids globally are stressed. And there's really very little hope within power industries for grids globally. And you've got manufacturing shutting down around the world. And so everyone is going to look to ERCOT, all eyes are on Texas on how do we fix these grids that have aging thermal generation, but at the same time, increase renewable intermittent penetration. And so really the only solutions are, raise the cost, invest in, capacity markets and raise the cost for end consumers. And so we're exclusively focused on how do we tweak regulations that allow for more bottom-up solutions and really Bitcoin mining. I mean, this is someone said it last week at Gulf Coast Power Association, this is the apex load. I mean, we can respond to events in the grid within seconds. And so that really changes. So that's what Choya is doing. We're in the early innings of, how do we grow in the Bitcoin mining space, but then also policy-wise, how do we be a good partner not only to the community, but also to the ERCOT stakeholder system.
Yeah, this is why you guys are such good advocates for. Did you hear this guy? It's ridiculous. And Griffin too, you've been doing a lot of policy work on stuff in Texas in particular, right?
Yeah, we're actually going through the state ledge right now, trying to get a bill passed that instead of flaring, basically removing any severance taxes to where we're encouraging Bitcoin mining. And like at the end of the day, I'm not saying that every single, Bitcoin miners either would make or break a deal on the taxes, but what it does is it sends the signal to the rest of the world that we have a free market capitalism solution to a problem that I don't care if you think the problem is wasting money or there's too much methane in the atmosphere. You actually have a solution that you don't have to regulate anybody, but you can incentivize people. And that's kind of where, Texas kind of leads the way and, hey, we don't have to regulate if we can incentivize. And so hopefully this next ledge, call your state reps, and hopefully we get this basically through this next legislative session.
And I think that's what's so great. It's mutually beneficial.
Right.
Absolutely.
So everything we look to do is mutually beneficial. Yeah. Like I have no public opinion on CO2 or methane or all that, but people seem to be people are concerned about it. So it's like, all right, here's an incentive to lower it. And that also helps the Bitcoin miners, helps the stakeholders, helps the community, helps everybody. So
that is exactly how I feel about so much stuff that's going on, is that we don't have, just because you might have a different reason for doing something, if the end result is beneficial for both. Oh, my bad. Okay. If the end result is beneficial for both, then what is the problem?
There isn't one.
It should be just because, yes, Bitcoin uses power. A lot of it is power that is stranded power and isn't going to make it to a market anyway.
Right.
There's this whole concept about talking about how much energy it uses is ridiculous, in my opinion. But regardless,
why does it keep getting talked about? Like, why is there so much FUD out there?
And I think that's one thing that I'm very comfortable with. The clearest correlation to human prosperity is energy consumption. So we need so energy efficiency matters, but straight up lowering the amount of power we all consume is nothing I'm interested in speaking about. I want to absolutely maximize how much power every individual globally consumes. And then at the same time, we can think about maximizing that, but lowering emissions. But, human prosperity, women's rights, all these things literally correlate to how much energy, how affordable and reliable. And so when you look at most of Africa, a lot of Latin America, they're not energized. And that leads to problems in society. Yep. And so Bitcoin mining is the most beautiful example of, we're going to use more power and it's going to benefit everyody, no matter what tribe you think you're in.
Right. That's the
cheap
thing.
Cheap energy is human flourishing.
Yes, completely. And Bitcoin should not be a political issue, in my opinion. It should be something that
I don't think it is. I mean, I have so many friends that look, you like renewable power? Bitcoin absolutely supports that. Look, you like natural gas? Bitcoin needs that too. Oh, you want to build more transmission in West Texas? Bitcoin helps that. It's like,
and it's a key to so much innovation, because you can monetize an experiment right? You can monetize something early on where you don't have an end consumer. Like Bitcoin is your end consumer at that
100% Bitcoin mining democratized energy innovation.
Oh, 100%.
If you wanted to innovate in the power sector, you needed billions of dollars and work at some massive corporation where you probably weren't going to get anything done. And so what Bitcoin mining did was similar to the App Store. Software was monopolized, or there was some oligopoly corporations who really innovated there. But then the App Store came along, and that was a clear line of sight to revenue for anybody who could rub 5 nickels in code. Bitcoin mining was the signal to the market of here, if you can innovate in the power sector, I don't care if you're a Nigerian, I don't care if you're a West Texas redneck, I don't care if you're a Canadian, anywhere you've got some crazy ocean idea. You need no one's permission, go out and innovate. And those innovations are just getting warmed. Even the ideas we were looking at 5 years ago that we pivoted from, they're engineering successes, but they weren't economic successes.
Right.
It was like, hey, this project's megawatt is not profitable, but if you built it at a gigawatt, it would be profitable. But like, who needs a gigawatt? It's like Bitcoiners.
Yeah.
Right.
And then just like, we saw with Tesla or any other new product, you start with the wealthy end consumers who can have a higher amount of capital they can allocate. And then once you iron out the kinks and it gets to, to where you crank out. So start with the expensive Teslas. You start with phones used to be big. Now everybody has them. So really energy is the same thing. We've got energy technologies that are engineering successes, but we need to build them bigger. So economies of scale, Bitcoin makes them way bigger. And it's like, don't just build 1 gigawatt new type of energy, build 10. And so then we're just building out these supply chains. So this is going to play out for the rest.
Do you think Satoshi had the foresight to understand the implications of that, of all the energy innovation that we would see?
I think Hal Finney did.
Yeah. And I do think that is part of it. I think that the design was, this is going to fuel innovation, and energy is obviously, because of proof of work, a huge part of that. And so, I do think that was part of the original plan.
And it's the one thing you can't counterfeit.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, totally.
You can't print energy, right? And so it destroys the LARPers and the grifters like from day one. And that's why they hate it.
And it's really,
that's a good point.
He was the Satoshi, he or she was the founder of effectively the Bitcoin Network, is a venture capital company. And it's a democratized energy venture capital company that allocates capital. If you lower the price of power, you get a higher allocation of capital. So it's the most savage and beautiful form of venture capital, towards like, if you perform, you need no one's permission, but you're getting more capital. And then the highest capital allocators.
So amazing.
It is the most beautiful thing ever. And it's these iterative processes that are occurring.
And we're still in the first inning. Like you said, early innings, I think we're still in the first inning, right? Because when you look at the history of the Bitcoin, network, you needed like maybe a megawatt in the early days, like $10, $15 Bitcoin. And then all of a sudden you need a handful of megawatts to really chase the price. And then everybody's trying to chase that price. They're plugging in, getting ASICs. And now, we're up to 30 megawatts, right? And then, once it passes $1,000, then all of a sudden we're having to start going to gigawatts. And now we're just trying to chase the $50,000 price. That's, kind of where we are now, like probably 8-10 gigawatts, right? But when we go on this next one, like we're talking maybe 30 gigawatts of power. And that's like, that's like half of Texas right there. Like the whole data center market cap is not 30 gigawatts yet. So sure, let's just plug that in, right? No, you have to innovate. You have to get creative. You have to plan
far
decades in advance, right? Tying up land, building substations, getting your hands on, every sort of infrastructure you can get your hands on. Well, then let's talk about where those chips going to come from, right? 30 gigawatts worth of chips is a lot of chips. You only have really, an Asian manufacturing hub, and until, I guess Intel and, Texas really gets on board with manufacturing there, you're going to have a lag. And the guys that are investing now and building now, during these down cycles, which I get it, it's getting access to capital right now is a lot harder than the bull runs. Everybody's, trying to throw you money then, but the smart money is literally saying, I see where this is going. And if you can wrap your head around what 30 gigawatts looks like this time, and then what does it look like in 10 years, no matter what you build today will be like gobbled up, at some point. And then I believe you're just going to kind of see an M&A, just like the oil and gas companies kind of do, to where everybody's basically
consolidating,
growing,
right.
growing through acquisitions.
It's the only way, because you can't build that infrastructure fast enough for some of these larger groups to grow.
It's the Wildcats.
Right,
if you're listening right now, now's the time to go be a Wildcat and build. If you build right now, it's very, very hard not to make a ton of money in the future on, but honestly, it takes guts, it takes risk, and it takes capital, which is very hard to come by right now.
Yes, it is. And Griffin's group, you mentioned your project you guys are working on, but I've had the privilege of getting to see some of it, kind of very close up. They're a client of ours, as is Gideon's group. So yeah, I got my two favorite clients.
Martin Legal,
as are we.
Yeah, as you are too.
Martin Legal's been, Martin Legal's been Brandon specifically has been doing oil and gas, Bitcoin mining, legal work in Texas
since 2017,
longer than anybody.
Right.
He was my first call, and I was like, University of Lance just said no. And I bet everything I have. How does this work?
What do I do? That's true. And so, and this is a little plug for the firm, but obviously we feel like we're probably the most experienced Bitcoin mining firm there is, and obviously heavy oil and gas as well. But Griffin's project, that's what they're doing, is they're putting money into infrastructure right now and timing the market correctly. And I do think that goes to just the experience you've had with oil and gas and just knowing the cycles that we go through. So, and with that in mind as well, like, where do you see, are you, at least when you're, trying to raise money for your different stuff, are you finding that the most money that is interested is from the energy space, or are you kind of
absolutely not?
Really?
No, we almost like have to have a Bitcoin appetite, or at least kind of a knowledge base, or just the energy guys. It's their way to get some exposure, right? They're not going to go buy the coin.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really understand that, but they're like, okay, I can get this. Bitcoin goes to zero. I'm still sitting on a bunch of semiconductors. I can put a number on that, right? Yeah. And so I kind of look at it right now as you're seeing machine prices get cheaper, but energy is more expensive. Yet the
difficulty
exohash
ain't slowing down.
Is going up and up and up. And our CFO Mike looks at it like this is just the shale game, right? When everybody was kicking that debt can down the road and just drilling these wells that maybe they could spend $1 and return
keep the
80 cents.
The EBITDA covenants in line.
Yes, and just pray for another commodity rip, right? And so all these guys are plugging in because they don't have a choice right now. They took on some expensive capital. They bought a ton of miners at a very expensive price, and they don't really have the choice to unplug.
Let it sit.
And so what I love about the efficiency of the Bitcoin network with the difficulty, and if you're a high cost operator, you're getting unplugged, right? Mm-hmm. You're getting bankrupt. You're basically everybody in 2020, 2021, if you had a lot of debt, you probably didn't make it through. If you bought a PUD deal at $100 oil, you probably didn't make it through, right? And so it's the tide going out right now, and you see who's swimming naked. And basically, I kind of see the M&A happening now, but it was just if say the price goes down to 15K or 10K,
oh my gosh,
the destruction will be massive. But it's a buying opportunity if you can get your hands on that capital, which I'm not claiming that to be easy.
No, it's not easy. And I think even if we don't see a price drop because of the difficulty increase, we're going to see a lot of M&A and bankruptcy. So it's inevitable. But great
time for the oil and gas guys to really take a look at it right now.
Right.
They've got a lot of cash because it is high capex. Don't get me wrong, but if you're sitting on cash right now, it is a beautiful time to start experimenting
we're at like 10% of the cost
mining.
of what miners were at a year ago or less.
A 5-for-1 deal.
Yeah. So it's there couldn't be a better time to get in it. But understanding kind of how the modeling works and now the profitability. And again, I know we don't have a ton of time, but when you guys look at it, like having the oil and gas experience, how would you kind of tell people to model it and how to look at it? Like, where's the decline curve come in play? What are the correlations between the financial or the economic aspects of Bitcoin mining, and how do they relate to oil and gas evaluations on a project.
Yeah, I mean, your price of power is effectively your LOE,
Mm-hmm.
and so I never look to do anything in Bitcoin or oil and gas where it's like, look, we're going to get in and we have to sell this deal. So everything we're doing is a little bit slower, but we're going to hold on to these assets forever. So really, it's your LOE, it's your price of power, and then your flexibility on power. People that have PPAs are great right now that signed them a while back, but if you don't, it's going to be harder. There's going to be credit. And so, hedging in the oil and gas business, there is some Bitcoin hedging products, but I think that's more akin to like your PPA. Can you get that locked down? And then difficulty. How do you model difficulty? It's really challenging. You can. And that's why I think
that's your decline curve, though.
Exactly. Right? And a lot of people are like, look, I want to get my money back really fast. That certainly matters. But I think you have to have a confluence of KPIs to think about. How fast do you get your money back? But the most important is what is your marginal cost to produce a Bitcoin relative to everyone else?
Which is exactly the same thing as what's your price to produce a barrel.
Exactly.
Right. That's the correlation. That's what made me get into it. It was like, this is the freaking same thing. This is the same thing.
Yep.
We got a good audience today.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
I compare it to like trying to explain proof of work to the oil and gas industry. Proof of work in oil and gas is obviously you need, a geology prospect, a landman to go get it, the permitting process, then the engineers get out of the ground.
I read the Texas Monthly article. We don't need geologists. His grandpa figured that out. We don't need your grandpa and your dad. Right?
I think you do need geologists. That's actually been really funny. We're in a play over not in the Permian, east of the Permian, and a bunch of the landmen. Look, in the Permian, a lot of guys, especially with land backgrounds, you just look, you bought stuff. We all got lucky. Just flip. But these next plays, especially in the oil and gas business,
you're gonna need geologists.
You got it. That's what's been fun though. It's been humbling.
Yeah,
it's like all the geologists are like, and you need the old school geologists that have actually could actually read a log.
Yeah. I'm sorry, geologists. I love you guys. You're all good. Go ahead. My bad.
Those are my right brain friends. We're all creatives.
Shout out to the rock clickers out there. So, and then I think about it as like you have a pump jack. You need how do you make a barrel of oil? You need a pump jack, you need time, and you need energy, electricity, right, to run that pump jack. Then how do you make a Bitcoin? You need an ASIC, a mining machine, time and energy, electricity, right? So they can kind of see that part. And then I look at the hash rate as a flowing barrel to where when there's too much flowing barrels out there, price is down, and if there's too much hash rate out there, the difficulty just basically regulates itself to where you just have these free markets that worldwide oil, WTI, Brent, like you can take advantage of a market on a very short term, but long term fundamentals are always going to win. And I think that's going to be the exact same thing in Bitcoin. So it's just boom, bust, boom, bust. We're gonna over drill when the price is high. We're gonna
see that's I literally we were talking about that on the way over.
Sit on our hands when it's low,
right? Is that and that's something again why I think we're best suited for this industry is because we understand that. I've heard other people even kind of in this industry talk about like this. After this next cycle, there won't be any more volatility. And it's like,
I love our kids.
I do too. They're great, man. In fact, we need to tell them what your daughter said on the way over here. I asked her like what she likes to do. She said, I like to dig for Bitcoin. And I was like, oh man, Gideon has got her trained up. That's good.
I'm teaching her perseverance by burying little treasures in the background and then like fake burying stuff. So she keeps getting dry holes, but I'm like, what do? Never give up.
You try again.
Yeah, my dad always told me the story. It's just you what happens when you drill a dry hole? You pick up a shovel and you dig another well.
That's right. That's right, man. You got to keep going. Never give up. But yeah, the profitability is always going to boom and bust. And I think out of this though, with all the public miners and kind of the visible downturn, we're going to see a lot of kind of financial derivatives start popping up that are more established and institutional type groups, so that it kind of will allow the institutional money to start coming into it. I think that a way to hedge and a way to protect yourself from downside volatility. That's why oil and gas companies hedge. But a way to protect yourself from that and the tax clarity, those two things are going to, I think, in my opinion, allow the institutional money that's kind of evaluating things still to come pouring into the industry, which it's a matter of time before it does. And once people understand it more, I think that's what's going to happen. And I know all of us are probably on the same page, but you know, I think I want everybody that does listen, which maybe it might be 2 people right now, but
thanks, Mom.
Yeah, my wife might even listen to this. But like the bottom line is the similarities between them. And I've said this at many meetups and all the different stuff, but instead of a wellbore, you got an ASIC computer that produces, instead of hydrocarbons, producing terahash that you then sell for Bitcoin. It's the same thing as a wellbore producing hydrocarbons that you sell for USD. Yep. It's virtually the same thing. And you know, if that's all people take from this, from the oil and gas space, that'd be great. But I think that you guys and what you do, you guys are perfect advocates for the industry and for, you know, everything that we need. We need the industry, the oil and gas industry, to understand that we have professionals that are thoughtful, innovators, understand economics, and understand how to like pick your timing, right? Like you've talked about that, is like you get in at the wrong time in this industry, you're going to get freaking killed.
Anybody can make money at $120.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We bought our wells at 50 and we're like, it couldn't go lower.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And then it did, and we lost everything. So
low cost operators are going to win in both businesses every time.
Every time.
Yeah. And I think just having good teams, I mean, really experience, cross industry experience, you know, absolutely experience plugging in ASICs. That was my favorite thing, you know, after we, you know, sold HODL, had a lot of people like, hey, heard you're in Bitcoin, you know, here's my financial model. What do you think? I want to get into Bitcoin mining. It's like, have you ever plugged in an ASIC? No. I was like, all right, look, you go plug in an ASIC or a GPU. I don't care. Go plug it in, even in your apartment, and then give me a shout. But you know, you put all these spreadsheet warriors, and that's what another problem is. A lot of the capital that has come in is looking at how do you, okay, let's keep things as cheap as possible. This is a new industry. We want to get our money back as fast as possible. Cheap, cheap, cheap. Well, then you've got machine degradation because you're not investing in your facilities. So there is just all these principles, you know, and that's like, you know,
a refrac.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah,
or having a bad directional company who, you know, then your LOE's way higher, but sure, you got your money back, or you over drill the thing. So yeah, the correlations are unbelievable. And that's what's really, I was sitting in our rig line meeting the other day, I was telling you, and one, it was just fun because I didn't ever, you know, I grew up, you know, just running around West Texas doing deals and like, Dad, let's do this deal. And then we'd fight. And then sometimes we did it, sometimes we didn't. But just sitting in the rig line meeting, seeing the sophistication that Choi has been bringing to the upstream side. And then, you know, planning stuff out really far into the future, being thoughtful, having every single, you know, you got regulatory, engineering, ops, geology, land, I mean, finance, everyone weighing in on the rig line meeting. And looking at that, I mean, it gives me, I mean, I got goosebumps right now thinking about just, hey, look, I'm still waiting for, you know, Joe Biden to call me and say, hey, thanks for drilling. But luckily market signals are telling us we need to drill. Yeah. So that's the great thing about bottom up solutions and, you know, market pricing. But just that level of sophistication is going to come to Bitcoin mining, and it's operations excellence, you know, and we're basically, you know, there's so many analogies to the shale business. I always say this is like, you know, Barnett 2004 or, you know, Permian 09 where, you know, the ETO Daniel horizontal was drilled or something. But really it's a confluence of, this is like 1920s. I mean, I drove by, this was years ago. I drove past a gas station. I was sitting there and it had Shell on it. And I was like, you know, when someone first got oil out of the ground, they had no idea gas stations would be a thing. Like all these derivative products that have been built around oil. And I think that's where I don't think about Bitcoin as just money. To me, it's a network like land. And what made America great, I would largely attribute to property rights. Like if you owned land, you knew you could farm it and you could make money doing that. And then on top of that, people built LLCs, people built storefront businesses, you know, and they're all these things we are enjoying in society that have created value were built upon land. And so Bitcoin is the digital property network, and we've got the layer 2s and layer 3s and all the other things coming. And so we can't even conceptualize where this thing is headed, but we know that it takes every single principle that made America great, bottom up solutions. You know, I love Alex de Tocqueville's talking about, you know, when Americans see a problem, they voluntarily get together and solve it. They don't go to the nobles. They don't go to the government, ask you know, some people do, but in America, we have that voluntarism where we can go solve problems. It's the same thing in Bitcoin. You don't like the code, propose a new one. And so that's where, there is just so much innovation. You've just democratized not only energy innovation, but all kinds of new types of internets and businesses and LLCs. And at the same time, I mean, we can talk so much more efficiently because of Zooms and Teams. And so you've got communications are more liquid, money's more liquid. And so the world that we're moving into is just going to be unrecognizable.
I think what's cool
for goosebumps. That's
cool for me was exactly what Justin said. Is I met each of you through Bitcoin specifically, even though we all came from the same industry.
Yeah.
And I think if you look 10 years, 20 years, 50 years from now, you guys are going to be the Rockefellers of this space, right? Think about it. I mean, it sounds crazy, but I think the history books will show.
Off, man. That's all I'm trying to do. That's it.
We know law school is expensive.
Yeah. But you're right. I mean, I think that, these two probably more than me, but my skinny jean comment kind of blew me up from thanks a lot, Bloomberg. It weren't skinny jeans, by the way. I'm actually wearing the jeans. These are not skinny jeans.
I think Michael was right. I like Michael. I think he was right.
I like Michael too. He was wrong on his interpretation of skinny jeans, though.
Where the only reason I can maybe agree with you on that is because we started in Texas, and Texas has the best private property rights, the best wind energy, the best solar energy, nuclear deposits. We got a couple molecules of oil and gas around the state. And so we will be where any cheap energy, if you can do it, we can do it better. And that's the attitude of Texas. The come and take it is still here. And so that just being the bastion of freedom, I think will make OPEC hash rate meetings in the year 2040. They're going to be right here in H-Town. And the opportunity here is because our natural resources are huge, and this new bill that's basically subsidizing all the build out for more renewable energy that is going to have no market. I don't think they're going to be able to really build those out without subsidies unless they're mining Bitcoin.
No, I do my job for free. The federal government has mandated an increased penetration of renewables through the IRA bill. That we will look back on that as like the IDCs for the oil business. Like it unleashed a lot of innovation and capital to the space. So the IRA bill happened, but that is a top-down solution that is absolutely going to bring chaos to the grid, unless you have a bottom-up solution that can be flexible on the load side. So the federal government is creating some problems. And then we're going to use a bottom-up free market solution to fix it.
Right. They're creating a problem that Bitcoin's going to end up solving, which will benefit us.
That's where it's like the Bitcoin and oil companies are going to solve this problem, and we're not asking for any. In fact, I would advocate against the IRA. That's a subsidy. That distorts the market. But it's, just amazing that all of our industries are going to be involved with, helping advance, all these other innovative technologies. So.
Well, and to go back to what you had said too about kind of what's going to come from this, we can't really conceptualize. And people don't remember probably, but literally when I was in high school, which I'm older than probably most people in Bitcoin. I know I'm older than all you dudes. But man, the internet was not like, I remember us having class to try to tell us like how to use it. You know what I mean? And to think of what our lifestyles are like now because of the internet is remarkable. Like it's not something that I think any of us would have been able to plan out. It takes time for people to realize what it is and then find a way to utilize that technology within what their plan is and a use case for it.
Same with iPhones. When those came along, it changed the game for everything. Right? Now you got the entire world in your pocket.
Yeah, right. Like, do you even remember what your life was like before you had an iPhone?
Can you watch the Weather Channel?
I know. You had to watch the Weather Channel.
I'd have TV. I'd have to read the newspaper.
We went outside more.
Yeah, we did. We did. There was definitely some things that it probably impacted that we would consider bad.
But even like
life changes.
I didn't grow up with grandparents in my hometown. And so, with the phone now, I can, update my friends, my close family.
FaceTime them. We did that with the grandparents all the time.
And it's that is the greatest joy. Half of us brought, our kids today, which they're all running around chaos in the background, but it's the best.
The ungovernables.
I hope the office is going to be destroyed.
I know.
The pickleball, there's going to be lights down.
Sorry about the crayons on the walls.
Oh my God. Yeah. We left them alone for a little bit too long.
No, they're being watched. I promise, Mrs. Haby, Mrs. Powell, they're being watched. by someone. But yeah, no, there's this whole thing is it's exciting where we're at as an industry despite the downturn. It's part of the maturity process in my opinion, and it's only going to be better down the road. If you think back again, throw in that story out that about your grandparents and your dad, 38% of the wells are dry holes. You know what I mean? It's like, I guarantee you, they went through the same learning curves and difficulties that the Bitcoin mining industry is going through right now. And so yet another correlation to them in their kind of maturity process. But it's inevitable that things will get better from the economic side, but also from the technology side and from the way that more technically disciplined individuals getting into the space and starting to innovate on the kind of the very rudimentary founding building blocks that we have right now. So
I think what's interesting to me, I think that's really stands out is coming from the technology side of oil and gas for the last 10 plus years and seeing whenever I was coming in, I was pitching cloud software to these companies and they were like, what the fuck is the cloud, right? To fast forward to today and just seeing how this community has, particularly the oil and gas community, has rallied behind Bitcoin is mind blowing to me because just the mindset shift that has taken place over the last decade, particularly the last probably 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to wrap my head around it because I feel like we were such like laggards compared to everybody else a decade ago. And now like it's,
energy backed money.
Everything moves faster now than it used to.
Yep.
And this sound, I'm not just trying to throw a plug in there for Empower, but like I honestly felt like even since Empower, I've felt a big shift in the attitude from a lot of the oil and gas folks. Like when we first got Jay going, I mean, it was tough to get anybody to want to do anything. And by now it's like, I mean, everybody's interested in it. Even in a down market, I feel a tremendous like momentum behind the whole industry. And a lot of it, I think Empower did a good job of really kind of bringing people out to like learn about it.
100%. When I first got into Bitcoin mining, one of my favorite things that I like to think about in 10 to 20 years where our industry is going to be is when growing up, I went to NAPE with my dad. And the coolest thing was when my dad he walked the whole thing. And when he'd see someone and be like, oh my gosh, Joe, remember that dry hole we drilled in 1986 back in Throckmorton? And like, and that happened almost, 3 to 5 times where it's someone he hadn't seen in a while. He caught up and they didn't talk about, oh, remember we sold that big deal? It's like, remember that shit we went through? It was like, we were drilling. We couldn't set surface. My father passed away and I really regret not asking him more stories, but I'd get these. He never really talked a lot about his childhood or early on. But one of the funniest things I heard, he was like, "Yep, I got, we dropped a nuclear tool in the hole, and that's when I started smoking, and I was up for 3 days straight." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Nope." And I was like, "Okay, we're not going to talk about it." But all those stories of adversity are what I mean. That's the beautiful thing about this America and this volunteer is like we see risks, we see problems, we go take them, and the relationships we build along the way is just the absolute cool. So that's what we're bringing our kids. I can't wait to be 10, 20, 30 years down the road and be like, oh my God, remember, I'm calling this one Fimbulvinter because it's my third Bitcoin apocalypse. But it's like the first, and Fimbulvinter is an old Norse mythology. I'm trying to make it a meme, so hashtag Fimbulvinter. But the first
you gotta
one,
spell that, please.
It's 3 consecutive winters in Norse mythology where there's no crop and effectively society dies. But out of that is birth, something better. And so that's kind of, for me, the first downturn, I mean, I was leveraged to the tits to Bitcoin. It collapsed. I'm stressed, but then it comes back and you're like, all right, we survived that. And then the second downturn happens and you're like, okay, it's really stressful. I don't like it. But then the third one, you got friends on the interwebs. You're making memes. You've got, like you learn to be like, oh, did the apocalypse just happened in Bitcoin? Hell yeah. I was born for this.
It's
like,
so weird.
Like,
it's
oh,
so weird.
This is your first time? I was like, I was born in chaos.
That's, I've noticed that too. Like my concern for the Bitcoin price dropping has disappeared. Like I've actually got nervous when it hit like 23 grand not very long ago. I was like, no, not yet. I needed to stay down for a while. So
the best training you can get for watching a Bitcoin price action in a bear market is an oil and gas career.
100%. All right. Well, we were running out of time, but I do want to say, look, I'm excited to get the show going, right? And
I think this was a great test
great
that this is
start.
going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, it's going to be a blast. And I wanted them two to be the first ones for a variety of reasons, but one of them being that both of them, I think, are, like I've said, excellent advocates for the industry, especially because you have such a crossover appeal and your experiences in the oil and gas industry combined with what you've been doing over the last few years, last several years for you. But also they're two people that I really just admire a lot. Like, I think, even though you guys are younger than me, I do look up to you for being,
we love you too, Justin.
Substantially younger than me. Yeah. I look up to the fact that you guys you're the quintessential Texans. Like, when I thought of Texas, when I was moving down here, I thought I was going to run into people like you. I didn't so much because I moved to Houston, but, now meeting you, I'm like, man, they are the epitome of what I thought I was going to meet. But at the same time, they're very, very unique, and they bring a different kind of thought process, different philosophy from the, like, unfortunately, we live in a world where everything is like you're on one side or the other. And I think it's a big problem in our society. And I think that it just continues to push the extremes on both sides, and makes us even more tribal. And I think I like the fact that they can talk to anybody, and you guys have a kind of personal philosophies. I don't like talking about politics, but like your personal philosophy is very much take care of yourself and take care of your neighbor, do the right thing, and stop trying to, police other people's personal moralities and things like that, like freedom. And truly
come and take it.
Yeah. Come and take it. But also, like, look, I'm not going to get in your business, you stay out of mine. But at the same time, kind of a community feel. So I really have enjoyed getting to know you guys over the last few years. And I mean, I consider you guys two of my best friends in the space.
Triple, yeah. Well, I remember the first time we met, it was so fun because we hit it off on criminal justice reform.
Right.
All these other, like, if you're in Bitcoin, you're generally a curious person. I think everything you're talking about is like, look, there's the free market, but then there's like, hey, how do we be just good humans? And, my mom always said growing up, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. So how do we really listen to the other side, whatever. But I think I'm very bullish on the future. I think Bitcoin mining is going to unleash energy innovation. But I think, the community and the friends we're making along the way is absolutely, the memes for days.
Yeah.
all roads leads to Texas.
That's right. It does. And we got that plug in the article the other day with Bloomberg as well. So it was good. Yeah. But thank you guys. I really appreciate it. Right. Jake, I'm super excited about this. And
no, it's gonna be really good. It's gonna be a lot of fun. It's gonna be a lot of fun moving
Thanks
forward.
for having us.
Yeah, absolutely.
I enjoyed myself.
Yeah, we're gonna be doing some more, and I'm sure I will be asking you guys to do this again before too long.
As long as I'm allowed to bring my kids again. Then it's all
man, kids welcome.
I'll bring mine next time. They'll really destroy the place.
Yeah, I'll bring mine to baby since they're older too. Like, I'm gonna be like the granddad in this whole industry.
It's all right.
Yeah,
I wasn't gonna say it, but you have quite a bit of gray hair.
Well, at least I got a lot of gray hair. I'll take a lot.
Aren't you like only 40?
I know. Yeah,
but in
I'm the oldest one.
In Bitcoin.
In Bitcoin, that's old.
That's
So
you're a dinosaur.
Yeah, but I'm gonna use it to my advantage as long as I can. But thank you guys, and looking forward to more of these, and we'll have you back.